you for joining us today. My name's Alex and I'm the Head of Implementation at Osprey. I'm also joined by my colleague Rebecca, who is our Project Manager for the Implementations team. We're excited to introduce you to the Osprey AML workflow, designed to help law firms stay compliant with anti-money laundering regulations. As mandated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority, every law firm must conduct thorough risk assessments when onboarding clients. Our new AML questionnaire workflow simplifies this process into a fully customizable system that integrates directly into your firm's existing workflows. This workflow not only helps you complete risk assessments quickly and accurately, but also ensures consistency across your team, reduces the risk of errors, and provides clear visibility of the entire compliance process. Plus, it's flexible, so you can tailor it to meet your firm's specific requirements, making compliance both straightforward and efficient. The new Osprey AML workflow streamlines the process of completing and tracking risk assessments, helping your firm stay compliant with the SRA's requirements. Guided by the SRA's AML form, this workflow integrates seamlessly into your existing processes. By speeding up risk assessments, reducing the likelihood of errors, and promoting consistency across teams, it helps mitigate AML risks and safeguard your firm's compliance efforts. So let's do a quick demo to show you how the Osprey AML workflow works. So as you can see, I've got my client and matter loaded and I'm now ready to start the risk assessment. This is a new client and matter which I've added to Osprey, so assuming that we are acting for this client for the first time now. I'll hop over into the workflow section. And you can see here that the workflow is comprised of 3 tasks. So we've got the initial risk assessment, the interim risk assessment, and the final risk assessment. During the initial risk assessment, you'll see here that we are prompted to fill out various questionnaires, and these will capture data which will help determine the risk associated with this client and matter. So in breaking this assessment down into 3 tasks, I can capture the risk at different stages of the matter, and copies of the risk assessment form will be saved to the matter history after each task is completed. So let's start by having a look at the data captured in the initial risk assessment questionnaires. So you'll see here that I have unticked some of the questionnaires, and that's purely for speed. You don't need to see all of these things, and you'll be able to have a look at a copy of the form in any case. So what I'll do now is start by looking at some of the data captured through these questionnaires. So all I'm going to do is click this little play button to run through them. I've pre-populated this for speed, but I'm just going to show you some of these questionnaires so you get a good idea of what's there. So first off, starting with some client details, so we've got your existing client. I said before, this is a new client. They're a solicitor, and we've taken some information here about what ID documents we have received. These boxes are expandable and expand as you type. So I've entered that we've had a passport and that it expires in October. If we have an entity type, we can add that there. For an individual client as this we are going to leave that blank and hit the submit button. Again, going through some kind of client money laundering risks. So is it unusual for the type of client to instruct us? Do we have any concerns about the client or third party? For example, capacity or undue influence, any vulnerability? Whether a third party is instructing, and if so, do we have any evidence of their authority to act? Concerns about the client, agent or third parties? Is the client a designated person or entity? And to provide any details of any concerns in the text box at the below here. Moving on to the matter risk assessment, this is a fairly lengthy questionnaire, so I'll just show the first part of it, but we ask for the description of the work, whether we normally carry out this type of work, whether the matter involves creating a complex structure, is it cash intensive or a high risk industry, and whether there are any other AML or counter-terrorist financing risks or not. I'll skip across to the next questionnaire so that we can move past that. But this will be the point at which we select the risk level. So we're doing this at the outset of the matter. We are considering all of the criteria that we've gone through and answering the many questionnaires that this whole kind of task includes, but we're going to set the risk level posed by the client. So as you can see, some of these are list fields, some of them are text boxes. This is a list field here. I'll say the client risk is low and the matter risk is also low, and I can give some justification in the text box if I'd like to as well. Click submit. That takes me through to my final questionnaire, which again I need to fill out. So what level of customer due diligence will I apply? I'm going to apply standard due diligence. This isn't a particularly complex matter. It's usual. There's no reason for me to conduct enhanced due diligence here. So I'll give it the standard due diligence, and I can also justify that if I want to as well. Clicking submit will complete that questionnaire, and that's going to take me through now to run the initial AML client and matter risk assessment form. So that's just loading through now. And what you'll see when this form opens is that it has pulled through the information that we have input. So it's taken some basic information from Osprey standard fields, so the client's name and their address and the client matter and reference. But what it's also done is it's pulled through all of the information that we entered through the questionnaire. So you can see it goes through these bits from the first questionnaire that we looked at. There's some additional questionnaires that I didn't run through. So we've got some queries about jurisdiction risk, delivery channel, due diligence for entities if that's relevant to your matter and client, the matter risk. And again, this is the questionnaire that I didn't fully run through, but you can see there are several more queries to answer in this questionnaire. The product and service risk, enhanced due diligence if that's required, the risk level, and whether it's a high risk matter or not. So we've got our due diligence level at the bottom here as well. Final thing for me to do is just to sign it and date it and close it. So when I close it, you'll be prompted to save it. So it will save to the matter history. This is just the standard save screen that you'll get in Osprey. What I will do before I save it though is I'm going to allocate it a folder within the matter history. So it would just mean it's easier to find if I ever want to go back to the risk assessments area and look at what we've done. Here's our risk assessment. So click on that. I'm going to save it without time recording. I'll click finish. That's going to end my task. And now that I'm back in the main workflow screen, I can see that this initial risk assessment is completed and that it was ticked today. So really clear for anybody who wants to come in and have a look at this matter, what's happened with the risk assessments. So I'll hand over to Rebecca now as she will demonstrate where this sits in the matter history and how you can add documents.
Go into the matter history. I can see I've got my risk assessment folder here. By loading that, I can see that the risk assessment is already here that we've just completed. I can now add in additional folders, so the verification of identity can be added in, and we can preview that. So this has been completed outside of Osprey and has now been added to the matter history. So we can keep all of our risk assessment documents in one place. If I hop back into the workflows, we can see that we've got our other two tasks ready to run whenever we need them. These tasks are used to record the ongoing risk throughout the matter. I'll run the final risk assessment so that you can see that this is a shorter task with just the one questionnaire. Here we need to revisit the risk factors and questions listed in the initial and the interim risk assessment. So if any of the factors have changed or anything else has changed throughout this matter, we can record this here. So in this particular example, nothing has changed throughout the matter, and I'm happy to keep the risk level as low risk. I'll submit the questionnaire, and the final risk assessment document will open for us. And we can see here that the final client's matter risk assessment has now run. So again, I can sign this and date it. And save this back into Osprey. So again, when I save this final risk assessment, I'm going to put it into the risk assessment folder. So we're keeping everything together, and I'll save this with no time recording. If I finish this and complete, we can see that the two tasks have now been completed. You'll still have the original copy of the form in the matter history, so it's easy to see whether there has been any change throughout the matter. In reviewing the risk, you can always look back on the initial risk assessment form or any other risk assessment forms that have been run. The beauty of workflows is they offer flexibility. Every firm operates a little differently, and we understand that. That is why our workflows can be fully customised to match your exact AML and compliance requirements. Whether you're adding or amending a new data field or changing the order of tasks and customising reports, everything can be tailored to how your firm operates. This workflow can run as a standalone, as you've seen, or we can insert the tasks into the existing workflows. At the relevant point, for example, our conveyancing users generally like to perform initial review at the outset of the matter, then an interim review just before exchanging, and the final review will come just before completion. So we'll insert the AML tasks at these points. That way, it is integrated seamlessly into the existing process and cannot be forgotten. Thank you for taking the time for watching this demo. We hope the new AML workflow simplifies compliance for your firm and provides a peace of mind. If you're interested in implementing this workflow, simply get in touch with your client success manager to get started. We're also happy to assist with any training or support you might need to ensure a smooth setup and transition. Feel free to reach out for more information or to schedule a session with one of our team.